then you can do wherever your world is.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. Thanks for coming. Talk about some local development strategies using Kalabox, which is a Docker orchestration mechanism. So you can use Docker on your local machine to replicate your production environments and do your development. So this slide is just saying, take our history into account and do good things. We know we've been developing for a long time and we know some stuff that goes wrong. So let's choose the best technologies and pipelines to get stuff from here to there in a sane way. My name is Geoff. I'm a developer at Tandem and we make Kalabox. And in my spare time, I work on Backdrop CMS as a core committer and contributor. And that's a fork of Drupal. And that will be the example application in this presentation, but that's not important. It can be any application in theory, but certain ones are supported more tightly integrated with Kalabox itself. This is a bit about what we do at Tandem, process tech and training. Basically, trying to streamline workflows so that developers can focus on developing, and deploying to production is not a big deal. So on the left, got a Rube Goldberg machine here, which if you come from Drupal, but probably coming from anywhere, sometimes you can relate, maybe in the old days, the amount of things that you might have to do to deploy an application to live, or even just an update to an application, particularly in Drupal before we had features and somewhat after we had features. Any database config you would have to, could be anywhere from 20 clicks to 100 clicks of, say, views configuration, content type configuration. And if you weren't using features or anything to manage that configuration, you had to either write that down, remember it, and replicate those clicks on production. And humans can make mistakes, and anytime you can automate that, you're going to make sure that what you think is going to work and that's working in your dev environment is going to actually work in production. So some of the tools that we're going to use to do that are Docker, Kalabox, and Lando. So Docker is container management, and Kalabox is an orchestration tool to hide some of that magic from you. You just have to know a few commands to get all that orchestration going. And Lando is the future of Kalabox, which is basically going to be Kalabox 3.0. The application layer can be currently can be Drupal, Backdrop, or WordPress. In the future, we're looking to support Laravel, Symfony, mean stacks, JavaScript stacks, and possibly Ruby. Using Composer to build components of your application and run your tests. And then you can deploy those things to anywhere, but for example, Pantheon, Linode, Platform SH. In this example, I'll use Linode. So those things are in bold because that's what I'm going to use for this example, but they could be, you could swap out any one of these components. So the old days, Wild West, do whatever you want, write some code, get it up there, get push, get pull, go on the server, see what happens, click around. I'm sure we've probably all been there. And on the right, we have what hopefully is a more sane workflow where you develop locally, that's the Kalabox logo there, and then push your code to GitHub, have a Travis build, and then push that out to production, which in this case is Linode. So, these things can be swapped out. There's nothing in this presentation that locks you into Kalabox. You can use Docker directly or your local dev stack, push to GitHub, but that can be Bitbucket or any repository, your own Git repository if you want. Travis can be switched out with, Circle CI, but the point is to find some pipeline that can be automated and work. So you take the human error out of it, basically. And then deploying to production could be anything. In this case, will be Linode. All right. So how many people have upgraded their operating system or their MySQL or something and lost a full day of productivity because you had to troubleshoot that, maybe 2 people's worth of productivity because you have to pull in your DevOps guy to help you get that local dev stack back up and running, just so that you can get to the problems that you were supposed to be working on that day. So quite a number of hands went up there. So Kalabox is based on Docker, and why that matters is because your dev stack is isolated from your computer's OS. So your MySQL is in a container, your application is in a container, and those things communicate with each other, and Kalabox manages that communication for you, and you just worry about the development. So you don't have to lose a day because you updated MySQL either by accident or installed 2 MySQLs or whatever. And if your operating system updates, same idea. The operating system of the application's in the container, so it doesn't matter if your operating system updates. How many people have developed something really awesome and then deployed it and it didn't work, and then you're sitting there telling your boss, it worked on my machine. And it did work on your machine. And then so uncovering why that happened is often difficult. That could be because you didn't have production parity, you had a different version of PHP, you had different PHP INI settings, many things. So with these containers, you can pretty easily make sure you're using the same version of PHP in your container as you are on the live server. So we also have continuous integration, which we can run some code checks and run some tests to also help prevent, it worked on my machine, but not going to work on production. So when you set up this pipeline, you set up Travis to run these things, and if the tests pass, then you can merge your code in and then push it. And if the tests fail, Travis is smart enough to not push that code to production. Then you have that stopgap, and you can come back and look at what tests failed and why did it fail, and then figure it out before the fire, because it's not live yet. So you should do that on every PR. You should use every task should have its own branch and be non-blocking to other tasks, and have tests merging once tests are passed, once QC is passed, that kind of stuff. Continuous deployment. You store your code in GitHub and configure Travis to push to your production server, which will be Linode in this case. And then you don't have to be scared. You don't have to wait for a 3-month cycle to complete to push to production and have somebody with their 150 clicks of configuring views or whatever it is. You can deploy 3 times a day. Or however often you want, and in theory, you don't have to be scared about breaking stuff. Your development stack is solid, your development pipeline is solid, and getting to production, getting live features to production is easier, or at least protected from the human error. Of course, the development stuff is the development stuff, and however hard that task is however hard that is. So I'll show you an example of those things. So what I have here, and what you can walk away with today, is this GitHub repo. Of note are going to be the travis.yaml file, which you can drop into one of your projects to set up this continuous integration. The composer.json file, which has the suites that this project is using to run code linting and code styling checks, which you could easily put in bhat tests or whatever else is relevant to your project. And then in the case of Linode, you need Git hooks to respond to the pushes and run your post-deploy tasks that you need. If you're using something like Pantheon or Platform, they have their own kind of wrapper to Git hooks that you can. Pantheon uses Quicksilver, and Platform just has configuration files that you can. Yes?
Can you adjust your screen resolution? It's kind of pixelating on the projector.
Yeah.
Hard to read. That is better. Thank you.
Oh, it's off the screen though. Is there some kind of compromise we can make on that?
Maybe the reasons. What were you saying? What'd you do? You did mirroring?
No, we just use the resolution of the projector. Visual display.
Yeah.
Maybe you can select scale and try something different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, scale. Split scale.
Yeah, there you go. 1080. 800 by 600. It's way pretty useless.
That should still work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Much better.
Whoa. Oh, I see. That looks better.
They're not all
So,
choppy.
not all choppy.
Yeah, good.
So yeah, you guys can pull down this repository, github.com/thinktandem. I'll post the links, and you can get it at your leisure. And this is really probably the most important thing. You know, hearing me talk and hearing the vocabulary words and the pipeline is fine, but this is the thing that you could like follow to put something into your own code base that will get these things up and running for you. Also of note is that there are other example repositories in here. So this one is a backdrop app connected to Travis and Linode. There are Pantheon examples in there and Platform SH examples in that /ThinkTandem organization that you can use and manipulate to suit your needs. All right, so this is my local. So Kalabox has a front end here where you can spin up applications. You can integrate with Pantheon, and I have multiple Pantheon accounts. You can log into those by token. You can just generate generic Drupal 7, Drupal 8, WordPress, or backdrop applications. Really, the sky's the limit. You could spin up one of those things, totally rip out the code, and put whatever else you wanted in there to have a local environment for that code base. Kalabox also has a command line tool, so you don't really ever have to go to the GUI if you don't want to or don't need to. You can use the GUI if you find that to be a convenient way to work. That's totally fine. So what we have here is when you spin up one of these applications, this is the file structure you get. And what is shared to your local is this directory called code. So that is what you see in the GitHub repo is what's in this code folder. You could put the whole thing in Git and then hand off that Git URL to junior developer or whatever, have them pull it down, have them type kbox start and start the application and have them get developing without much DevOps configuration. If you do kbox list, you get a list of the same basically applications that you saw in the GUI dashboard there. Good morning. And it tells you, whether they're running or not. And what I have running right now is just this Git hooks repo. You have a tooling container, which for Drupal and Backdrop contains, drush, so you can kbox, drush, ccall, drush status, those kinds of things. So kbox start will start your application, kbox stop it. Kbox drush allows you to run your drush commands against your local environment. So what we have here is the GitHub issue queue with ZenHub on top of it. That's not super important. We use ZenHub, but you can use just straight GitHub with issue queues. So what we have here are a couple mock issues. So ticket comes in, you need a events content type, and it needs to have some stuff. So you come to your local environment, just like you're used to. Add a content type. Events. Save and add fields. Add the fields that the issue requested. Forgot what they were already. Image field. Just adding a field like you normally would in Drupal. This is backdrop, but same ideas. So now we have a content type, events, which you can add content to, and so on, just like you're used to. So what we have in backdrop and in Drupal 8 these days is configuration management. So right now my tree is clean. What I want to do is make a new branch so that I'm not blocking other developers to make my new content type. So this is issue 11. So just make a branch. Like that.
Oh, check out dash B.
Thank you.
Yeah. There, you showed something new now.
Making a branch.
No, just how you were doing it. I'm like,
Oh. So the tree's still clean. What we want to do is take advantage of configuration management. So we're going to use drush, backdrop, configuration, export.
So that command basically runs Drush inside the Docker image.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Exactly. So now my tree is not clean. I can see what has changed. And I can see if that makes any sense or not. And I have some web form stuff in there too, which is fine. It's not what I was doing in this. So technically I would probably want to stop and say, okay, I don't want to export web form stuff in this commit, but for the purpose of this demo, it's totally fine. But that might be a red flag in your day-to-day life. Like you're not doing the thing you said you were doing in the ticket, so you might be causing problems. So I'm going to commit that. So it's good to reference your tickets. GitHub is smart. If you reference the ticket, it can match the pull request to the issue, and so on. This is 11. Adding events. So there's my commit, and if I think everything's up to par, push that to GitHub. And then fire off a pull request. So here's where peer review can come in code review, and you don't have to worry about a single set of eyes going, yeah, this is going to work. I know it's going to work. You get other members of your team, get their eyes on it, say, yeah, this is good. Good work. You can assign this to people, have reviewers, so that they know that they have something to review. And once you fire off that pull request, Travis fires up and starts spinning up an environment, running Composer to get the packages it needs to do the code sniffing, run the tests. In this case, I just have linting and code sniffing. you could easily put bhat, and I would encourage you to put other tests in there to test your application. But even just having the code sniffing, make sure that your team is standardized in a non-threatening way. It's just, this is the Drupal standard, we're going to stick to it, or whatever the standard of your team is, we're going to stick to it. It's enforced by a computer, so no human is like the jerk going, hey, you didn't put a space there. Travis is faster sometimes than others. There it goes, it's firing up. To your question there, Al, if you just type kbox and you're in a Kalabox environment, you can get a list of commands that are available in that environment. So, Josh, Composer.
Yeah, yeah.
I tend to use Composer locally because that's the file system, and that file system is shared in the container. You can do that. You can do the same thing with Git. I'm using Git against the local file system because Git is just tracking the changes in the files. You can do kbox Git. It's a little slower. So you can manage that. And same with npm. I usually do npm install on the local file system and run any node packages that I have that way.
Because it's so file intensive.
Yeah, we have a Unison container that helps a lot with the file sharing between the local host and Docker, because the Docker file sharing is pretty slow, especially when there's a lot of files. So that helps a lot, but it's still, there are times like when you're committing a lot of things that you should wait a couple seconds to make sure that that sync happens. For like if you update core or something, and that maybe that's thousands of files or something. Okay, so these tests run, you see it pass. So this should be green now, and now you know that code-wise you're safe to merge this. Syntactically, you're in good shape. What's left is human review, and what you would really want to do is have this check for a staging branch and merge out to staging and have some human QA with probably the end client, whatever. We're gonna obviously, so I'm gonna say to merge this, then I'm happy. That will fire off additional checks before the merge and push actually happens. The same checks, but now against the master branch. So if this were to fail, it won't push to production. But if it passes, it's gonna fly out there. So this is the live site. You can see that I don't have an events content type. And if this passes and pushes, it should deploy the master branch with the configuration, has some post receive Git hooks that are going to run some post deploy commands, which is going to include drush configuration import, which should put the content type, the configuration out there. So that could be a view, content type, anything that's configuration.
So you're not pushing the Docker image, you're just knowing that the server matches your Docker environment.
That's right. This is pushing the code to Linode VPS. Yeah. If you use Pantheon, it's already containerized, so your build step is still going to push the code, but you're going to use the Pantheon Containers Platform SH as a containerized company where you have some more control over the containers, the end user. But yeah, I'm not pushing the containers.
Yeah.
So this passes. Inside, you can see the details of these steps. Here you can see, should be drush CIM somewhere. I don't see the actual CIM command, but these are the files that it's asking to import, and then yes or no. So I have a yes flag in there. So that's going through. And then I'm just clearing cache and running update.php as a post-deploy routine. So here's the server, refresh this. And I have an events content type with the fields that I expect. And of course I can,
Cache.
oh, it should have cleared cache. Maybe I didn't, maybe I don't have the right.
Browser.
Yeah, so cache, but I don't know if I have the drush CCL in the wrong place or what that is, but the configuration got deployed, but still not perfect, still a little bug with the cache. So back in GitHub, you can say, that you did these things, close this out. There's the reference via use because you referenced the issue in the commit. And so workflow-wise, you can just say, this is ready for review, and then close it out. If this was a staged branch, say ready for review, but that's done. So those code checks there didn't actually check anything, because I have the composer code checks configured to test a custom code, and that was a configuration change. So all that configuration is made by a computer. So you can change your composer file to check all the code, only your own code, only certain code, however you want to do that. So let's go back to our local and work on an issue. So just get my master branch up to date with the remote. And let's check out this issue. Oops, I moved the wrong issue over there. So this is 12. So this is gonna have some custom code. So this one is designed to fail. So in this, I pre-prepared a branch like you see in a cooking show, put it in the oven, take it out of the oven. So I already prepared branch 12. And what I got going here is a custom module, GitHub core, and just a little hello world menu hook. So that's what's going on there. And I'm going to push that branch up to GitHub. And do the same things I just did, but with different results. So that's the Travis build again.
So Kalabox, it's really about making the local developer just that consistent with their remote system.
Yeah, production parity is one of our goals, and allowing you to configure that production parity, whether you need PHP 7, PHP 5.5, and separation from the local operating system so that you don't lose a day's worth of work when you update MySQL or something like that is one of our goals.
How do you, is there tools that you have available to help you match the production server?
Right.
Because so for example, there was, I forget who it was, I think it was an Acquia product, not like a year or two ago, there was like, they did that on your local, but then to like actually replicate that on production, they didn't provide any scripts or even details, so you had to like go hunt everything down yourself.
Yeah, so that works in a couple ways. Like a stated goal of our Kalabox 3.0, this is 2.13, 2.1.3, I think. So one of the stated goals for Kalabox 3 is to have YAML files where you can say, just say PHP 7, and that's what I want for this container in this application, and some other application could be PHP 5. I want, this distribution, I want So more straightforward configuration. That's possible now, but it's not super straightforward. With like Pantheon is one of our clients, so they pay us to write an integration. So the integration with Pantheon is really tight. So you have production parity there.
So your Docker image basically replicates their Docker image.
That's right. Yeah. So you have a good parity there, and we're working on allowing you to configure parity to whatever your environment is. So here we have a fail, and you can see what it's complaining about, and it's missing a function doc comment. So you can see even without complicated tests that you're forcing everyone on the team to be verbose and self-document the code and the documentation of the project. Documentation is always a hard part. In my opinion, what you need to do is invest in the documentation and make it part of your workflow. And this will automate putting that in the workflow. Now, you don't have to push to make a pull request before you can do that. You can run those tests locally so that if you're the developer, you don't have to wait till you push to live for other people to see and go, oh, look at this guy, always forgets his documentation. You can run that, and you should run that locally. Same command that Travis is running, composer test, see the same fail, and you can run that before you commit your code to alleviate that problem. So I'm going to grab a doc block. And put that in there. And run the same test again. And this time we pass, so we're happy. Commit that. I'll reference the issue. That should update the same PR. And I expected it to run the tests again. I don't know if, yeah, there we go.
Have you guys worked with AWS to integrate with their EC2 Docker containers?
No, it's on the roadmap though. Trying to identify, what the largest pool of developers are interested in. Obviously, AWS is a big one that lots of people deploy to. So, it's just a matter of time and where the most bang for our buck is to provide integrations. Right now, we kind of have our heads in the platform SH space, but AWS is definitely one that is on our radar. I don't know how Richard Stallman would feel about that, but it is on our radar.
What, AWS is not open source?
Yeah, it's not open source, and one of his examples was the Kindle window.
It's open source, it's whether it's free software.
Whether it's free software, right? Many people got yelled at for saying, not yelled at, they got slightly reprimanded for using open source instead of free software.
Yeah.
Open source is the correct term. It's not the term he prefers.
So it means something different.
Yeah. Yes, it means something different. And he was trying to refine his vocabulary. You can't make a logical argument without knowing what you're talking about. Yep. All right, so works, and we can merge that in. And that goes through, and that will, in theory, deploy out to production as well, and we should be able to visit that path. I didn't even test locally. Shame on me, I should have visited that path locally and made sure what the behavior is. But for the example of this, I'm really trying to identify the pipeline and how you can take the human error. So one thing to notice here is I've I've not gone to the server, right? Like I'm not SSHing in, and I'm not going to like accidentally leave my terminal shell open as root to this production server and have my kid come by and hit enter on whatever, my dog, you know, whatever. So you're automating this stuff, you're taking the human error out of it, so that whenever you can do that, that's a good thing to do. And this is not too hard to do. You could probably make a half an hour to an hour investment of reading on this and maybe an hour implementation your first time. And then after that, on all your new projects that you put this in, it's going to be, you know, on the order of 20 minutes of getting this infrastructure set up. And then once it's there, and your project is safer and more reliable, and your clients are happier. So the magic is mostly in this travel.yaml and the composer.json. So you can see here that I'm specifying that the test run on 7. If you're if you're writing tests for Kalabox itself or like Drush, you might want to run on several versions of PHP, depending on what you support. For a production application for a client, you probably just want to match what the server is, and in this case, that's PHP 7. Telling Travis about where the server is, an IP address, and all of this is documented in the README on that on the repo GitHooks example. So it tells you how to make this file, what parameters you have to put in there, and then what Travis is going to do. It's going to do composer install. It's going to run composer test command, which you saw me run locally. It's going to run that command against the Travis infrastructure. And then what it's going to do after success, which is add in the keys so it has access to the server, pull in the code, remove the current origin, and replace origin with your server's Git repo, and then push that code out to the server. And server side, you're running the post git hook, which is this stuff here. So this is what's in your post receive file. So in your .git directory of your project, there's a hooks directory. You go in there, and there's a file called post receive, and these are the things that will fire after that. And you can see clearing cache, updating the database, and there's actually a Drush CIM to import the configuration up there too. So this file's out of date. Shame on me, I didn't update my documentation. I was scrambling this morning to finish this. But those are the things that run on the server after the push. Any questions? Composer.json, Travis.yaml.
Can we see the composer JSON again?
Of course. Yeah. So PHP lint, PHP CS, and which things I want to check, which are install files, module files, PHP includes. And I'm only checking modules custom. So I'm not checking contrib modules.
Or you can even run your PHP unit here and everything.
You can run your PHP unit, bhat, whatever you can think of and configure and know how to use, you can do. Any other questions? Kalabox, backdrop?
It seems like Kalabox's command line solves a big problem where, as a developer working in Docker, you have to remember a lot more commands. So Docker run this command.
Yep.
And move my thing when I'm done running. So that's where its big strong point is, you think?
I think that's a strong point. It's a wrapper for all that Docker stuff. So you do kbox start, and it's running a bunch of Docker commands in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is tedious as a developer to remember all stuff.
Yep. So you can abstract that a little bit, and if you want to learn about Docker stuff, you can go down that road. But for, like, say, a junior dev who just maybe wants to focus on coding technologies, they don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they kbox start runs all the Docker commands to have their local environment going.
And all their old commands work if kbox in front of them.
That's right. If you're used to running Drush, you do, kbox, drush, ccall, all of that all that tooling comes down for you. Yeah, so you don't have to install Drush locally. You don't have to worry about you installed Drush incorrectly or you installed the incompatible version of Drush for Drupal 8. You know, that is abstracted into a tooling layer that is compatible with whatever application you spin up.
In the UI you showed where it had limited options of Kboxes to install, you could easily pull from a private Docker repository, or no?
There's no interface for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people have asked for, you know, that kind of thing, or even just to put a GitHub URL in there to spin up an application. So you can work around that. There's no like UX for it, but you could you know, spin up a backdrop app which uses Apache if you want Apache, and then pull out that code and put it your, you know, your Laravel app. Yeah. And so that way you're, you know, you're kind of hacking it. We'd like to have better integration than that, and that's on our roadmap for Kalabox 3.
Would you guys take pull requests like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, github.com Kalabox/Kalabox is the open source repo of Kalabox, and you can say feature request or pull request is, you know, fantastic. That'd be great. Absolutely. Anything else? Yes.
The Pro version talks about visual differences for regression testing. Can you speak to that at all?
I have not implemented anything like that. Mike is the primary architect of this. I will ask him that question, but I'm guessing that's probably just running more tests in the test layer. Like I mentioned BHAT and unit tests. You could put in those types of, I would imagine that's what you'd have to do, but I'll try to get a more solid answer to that question and put it in somewhere. And I'll put it on a blog post on my site and reference it with Nerds17 or something like that in Twitter. Is that, or you can give me your email if you want more direct communication.
Everything you did was on the free version, all right?
Oh yeah, this is free. This open source product, you can download it. The other tiers I think are just like more support, things like that. We're young. We're 3. We don't know exactly what we're doing except for trying to write the best software we can for useful for users. Yeah, so the backdrop one uses Apache, so you could cheat to get Apache there. Most of the other ones are using Nginx. I don't have a lot of experience with the WordPress containers. I'm not sure. Probably also Nginx because it's probably integrated with Pantheon, but I don't know that for sure. Yeah, you can hack the Docker files. So this is a good thing to mention. Truth be told, I'm probably going to make I'm the maintainer for the backdrop drush extension, which allows those commands to run work. So I did hack this Docker file and asked it to run off of this branch here, fix CP and configuration export. So I specifically asked this tooling container to use this dev version of the drush extension. So you could do that for any container layer, the application layer. Say I want Nginx, I want Apache.
Yeah.
It's a little difficult to figure out where. Not difficult. It depends on your level of Docker expertise and all that. I don't have a lot of Docker expertise, so Kalabox I can use, and it does all the Docker orchestration for me, protects me from it. So this file overrides what would be the default drush, which would pull in from 0.0.4, which wouldn't have this stuff. So, but I'm going to make a release of 0.0.5 since I know this stuff works now. And then get that out there. And then, so by default, that would be pulling down that version of drush if you're running a backdrop app. So you can manipulate these Docker files. They're there. It's open source. You can make the software work the way you want to, depending on your level of expertise. That's what I have, unless there's further questions or We could just chat, doesn't have to be super formal. Thanks, everyone.